What is up, everybody? Ethan Newberry here for another Ginger Runner Live. Still international, still in Vancouver, British Columbia. Very excited about that. This is episode number 29. We're almost to 30. We're almost into our midlife crisis. Pretty excited about that quarter life crisis we probably have already passed through. I'm excited about tonight's episode. It's just me again tonight, but I do have tips from some pros. Tips about what? We're talking about recovery, like pro race recovery. Now that I'm deep into my recovery right now for my A race of the year, I want to talk a bit about that on today's episode. We've done a recovery episode before. I believe it was episode 2 or 3. This is going to be far more detailed, and I do have tips from multiple people on tonight's episode. Basically, I want to recover well. I want you to recover well from our big races that we run multiple times a year. So let's talk about it on tonight's episode. Welcome to Ginger Runner Live. Boom. Yes. Awesome. Going head to head with the Emmys. That's how I roll. I will make tonight's episode, I don't want to say brief because they never turn out brief, but we're going to shoot for under an hour. I tend to talk a lot, and I love reading the chat room when I'm doing these solo shows because it usually goes by really fast, and I love to chime in there and get your guys' comments and stuff like that to prove that this is, in fact, live, which I love to have that interaction. But the Emmys are on tonight, and I'm sure some of you are like, I can't decide. Do I watch a creepy ginger talk to the camera for an hour, or do I watch glitz and glam stars walk down a red carpet and give each other accolades and suck each other up? So we'll do a little bit of both. How about that? We'll make this a short and sweet episode. But as I mentioned, I want to talk about recovery today. I feel like I am deep within my recovery right now. I'm 8 days post double ultra marathon, and I'm still recovering. I can absolutely feel it. It's palpable within my body. It is not ready to move out of the recovery period yet. And I've talked to a number of people who have done extreme ultras, multi-day stage events, 100-mile races, talked to many people about the recovery period post large ultras or large A race efforts. And they all say the same thing, and it takes a long time. So today I want to try to embrace that and kind of analyze what I've been doing with my recovery, kind of go specific with recovery between those two ultras last week. I talked a little bit about it last week in the Squamish 50-50 race recap, Ginger Runner Live episode number 28. But today I want to talk a little bit more specifically about what I did between those races, between Saturday and Sunday, and what I've been doing all the last week to my body to make sure that it is recovering well. And during the course of tonight's episode, let me know your recovery tips. I already took a screen cap of some of your recovery tips in the chat room. Pooping seemed to be a really popular one. You guys really seem to enjoy pooping as recovery. I'll second that. I think it's a great recovery tip for those of you who might be tuning in that are not really familiar with recovery at all. Try pooping. It apparently helps. Before I continue to move on in the episode, though, I will be drinking tonight, which is a part of my recovery, apparently, which is an interesting twist on the words. But I will be drinking probably one of my new favorite styles of beer. I'm a big IPA fan. I love hops, but lately I've been getting into the saisons. The saison. This is from the Granville Island Brewing Company, which is just really close to where I am right now. It's in Vancouver. A lot of the beers up here are just fantastic, and I have not yet had this one. This is their Thirsty Farmer saison, so I will be popping this and drinking it during tonight's episode. I apologize to my lovely fiance Kim, who is not here. She's actually at work. This was supposed to be split amongst both of us. Unfortunately, there was no other beer in the house, so I will be drinking this and running to the store across the street before she gets home and buying another one. So she probably won't see this till later, so I probably didn't even need to say that. She wouldn't have known. Well, she would have known if I'm drinking this. Okay, so cheers to all of you who are tuning in live or listening in the podcast. Yeah. Ooh, that's delicious. That's good. I like the saisons because they're a little bit bitter. They have a little bit of citrus in there. Kind of has a bit of kick on the end. Kind of has a hoppy feel, but it's not super hoppy. I don't think the IBUs are super high, so I actually appreciate a good saison. Let's talk about race recovery. Specifically last week, I ran a 50 miler on a Saturday and a 50K on a Sunday. It was around 82 miles in total, because I think the 50-mile course is like 51 plus, and then of course the 50K course is like 30.8 or 30.9 or something. I think it's what I had on my watch. Um, so 82 miles in the course of 2 days does not equal a 100-mile race. Many people have run the 100-mile ultra distance. Many people have not and can't even fathom that. I'll tell you right now, I still cannot fathom a 100-mile distance. Absolutely not. I also cannot fathom the fact that I did 82 miles in 2 days. Like, that's still blowing my mind. But let me be proof that anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. As long as you take your time and your mental game is on point where you can just continue to push and not doubt yourself, you're good to go. But you're going to hurt. And I did. So I'll talk specifically about between the two races. When I got done with the 50-mile race, while I was sitting there, laying there, passed out on the grass, my body was very sore. The bottom of my feet hurt terribly. My toes were pretty wrecked. My knees actually felt pretty good. My quads felt pretty good, but everything was tightening up pretty quickly. So I knew what I needed to do was to get some sort of calorie into my body right after I finished. So I took a Recoverite, which is made by Hammer Nutrition. It's kind of what I've been using as recovery drink, the chocolate flavor, because it tastes like chocolate milk if you mix it correctly, or in low water amount, but high dosage. So pop that into a bottle, shook it, drank it. You just get that down within the first 30 minutes of finishing whatever race it is. Even a hard workout, I use that stuff religiously. I love it. So I got that in. Got in like a sandwich. I think it was like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or some bread or just some calories. But I couldn't really stomach a lot. And I knew that. I knew that after a long, hard effort, especially a 50-mile race, I tend to not want food, or I don't really have the ability to eat for a while, usually an hour after a race, at least. And then even that second hour, I'm either going to be famished and just fucking gorging, or I need another good hour or two to just not eat anything. So on this particular night, the option was to either walk to the brewery across the street and eat the food there, which I love. The food is amazing. The brewery is amazing. Or to go back to the hotel and order food and try to work out food from there. As much as I wanted to go to the brewery, I didn't think that would have been the smartest choice, because of another recovery thing that I wanted to incorporate that night was an ice bath and then a hot salt bath. I wanted to get my body into recovery as quickly as possible, since my turnaround was about, if I finished in 11 hours or something for the 50-miler, the next race started at 6 a.m. the next day. So I had about 13, 14 hours before the next race, which is not a long time. Your body basically clicks into recovery mode just as you're about to start the next race, so your body's not really ready to start. So we went back to the hotel, filled the bathtub full of cold water, dumped a shit ton of ice in there. We had ice already prepped, ready to go when I got there. Thank you to my crew, my friends. They were amazing to have the ice ready. Got into the ice bath, did a good 12-minute soak in the ice bath. I've used that in training a lot. It's something for me that I think mentally helps with recovery. It's hard, it sucks, but I guarantee you it helped kind of reduce inflammation and any sort of strains that I had going on in my feet or my ankles or my knees. That was a really nice tool that I used in the recovery between the races. Then you get out of it, and I didn't immediately go into a hot bath or a hot shower. I like to let that ice do its job for a good 20 minutes minimum. Meanwhile, we ordered food, got food, so I just basically shoved my face into a pizza. It was a real simple pizza, just a real basic crust. Not fried or anything like that, just a basic crust with a little bit of cheese, some sauce, and some vegetables on top. So it wasn't one of those crazy Pizza Hut, Domino's pizzas. It was far simpler. The ingredients were really simple, and I was really just kind of wanting to get the calories in. So I finished, it was about a 12-inch pizza, finished one of those and finished half of Kim's as well. Just basically put in as many calories as I possibly could before I went to sleep. And then I went to sleep. Woke up the next morning, and I also slept with my feet elevated because my feet were hurting pretty terribly after the 50-mile race. So I slept with my feet elevated, hoping that would kind of heal up. I woke up the next morning and was surprisingly okay. I was walking around very slowly and gingerly, there's a word for you, but overall felt better than I anticipated I would wake up feeling because I slept terribly that night, which is another thing, which I'll get to in a little bit. Started the next race, and it took a good 10K, 6 to 10 miles or so, before my body started to wake up again and realize that it was in another race and it was going to go all day if it needed to. So the recovery between those two races, I think, was key to my success. Those who run 100-mile races, 100K races, they don't get the benefit of a 12 to 15-hour break between races. I considered it a benefit. A lot of people I've talked to leading up to the Squamish 50-50 considered it a detriment. They're like, oh my God, you're going to get that recovery between the races. It's going to be the worst thing because you're going to try to wake up the next morning and you're going to be hobbling and you're not going to be able to start a 50K, let alone get out of bed. I was surprised that my body was mentally and physically dealing with that. That being said, that is exactly what I did for recovery between those races, and I feel like it worked. Whatever happened on that day worked that day. This last week in general, has been really tough. The bottoms of my forefeet have been really numb, like tingling, like my feet are in that transition between falling asleep and waking up. It's not the annoying tingling, but I can feel it every single day. It's like this numbness and this tingling in the bottom of my feet. I've talked to people about it. It's apparently a fairly common issue that some ultra runners have had, and it's basically where the nerve endings in the bottom of the feet were sending me signals all weekend saying, your feet hurt, your feet hurt, your feet hurt, your feet hurt. And they just got so tired of sending that signal that they just turned off. So it's going to be a matter of time before they turn back on. And I hope that that's the case. And I hope that it's not some sort of bottom of the foot nerve damage. But for the most part, the feeling in my right foot has started to come back, and my left foot's just taking its sweet-ass time. Been dealing with that. Been dealing with fatigue, tons of fatigue. During the day, I'm just tired. I've been trying to get outside and walking around and stuff like that, but I'm just tired all the time. Totally normal as well. I've been eating a ton, and I've heard this can go either way. I've heard people finish being large races like this or 100-mile races or beyond, and they don't eat a lot for days afterwards. I was pretty much gorging my face and my body all last week. But to try to get away from the sitting down and eating and eating and eating, I've been trying to dissipate the hunger over the course of the day. So rather than eating one giant breakfast and one giant lunch and one giant dinner, I've been trying to kind of space it out. So I'm eating meals, but more frequently throughout the day. So it's kind of a constant eating as opposed to 2 or 3 times during the day where I'm just shoving shit into my face. Shit. And that's been working out well for me. I don't feel like I'm gaining a ton of weight, and I don't feel like I'm lacking. I'm like, oh man, I need to be burning off all these calories I'm taking in. It actually hasn't been feeling like that at all, which I was concerned it would, because I'm not going to be able to get out there and do tons of physical activity. I was hoping to be able to do active recovery. That has been super limited. So in my mind, I'm going, oh, I can probably go hike, or I can go do real simple activities. I've been limited to walking around and even going up a hill. Kim lives on a hill, and walking down a couple of blocks to a coffee shop and then turning around and coming back up that hill, it's been tough. So I've been limiting my actual hard activity. This last weekend I went on a hike with Kim and was thinking, oh, maybe it's going to be a bit of a hike run. Anytime I'd even try to start running, I'm just be tired. And that to me is a sure sign that I'm not recovered, and it's going to take a long time. So this is the first time in any race that I've ever done where I've had to really take a step back and just allow my body to fully recover. The last thing I want to do is do too much too soon, or get back onto an injury track, or do something that's going to do something to my body that's going to ruin running for a long period of time. I don't want to get injured. I don't want to push my body beyond what it's capable of doing at this point. I just need to be happy with the fact that I've built up to that A race, and I can now kind of enjoy the back end of it, which is taking a couple weeks to just chill, to totally chill. I get it. We all love running. That is why you're watching the show. That is why I'm making the show. That is why we do what we do. We love running so much, and we want it to be a part of our everyday life. I get it. Sometimes we need to just take a breath and chill. So that is currently what I'm doing. That being said, there are a couple of tips that I will provide for you today that obviously have helped with my recovery this last week, and it's obviously made leaps and bounds improvement now that we are literally 8 days away since my last ultra, or the double ultras over the course of that weekend. In addition, I have some tips from Dom Grossman, an incredible ultra runner, ran Western States and the AC 100, won AC 100 in 2013. An incredible runner, incredible athlete, and we actually will have him and Katie DeSpiller on the future Ginger Runner Live episode, I believe on the 8th, which is in 2 weeks. Just confirmed him today for that, actually, and I'm very excited. So I got some tips from Dominic Grossman, got some tips from Sally McRae, a regular on Ginger Runner Live, and got some tips from Chris Vargo, also a regular from Ginger Runner Live. He sent his via text, so I'll be reading our text conversation. It's kind of funny. It's the guy is hilarious, and he was on an adventure this weekend too. I think he went to the Grand Canyon or something like that. And we're going to have him on next week's Ginger Runner Live. Finally, Chris Vargo comes back because he is about to race UROC, which is the Ultra Running of Champions, Ultra Run of Champions, Ultra Rock Show of Champions, something like that. All right, let me check in with the chat. Oh, Chris Vargo is actually in the chat room right now. Let me kind of go through and see what you guys have been saying. There's a lot of comments here. I am so sorry. Lean protein meal with a nice sugar tea, says Raoul Angle. Yeah, I agree with the protein meal, especially right after you finish a hard effort. It could be a protein meal. It could be a protein supplement. I don't eat meat, so I usually do some sort of vegetable protein, whether it's in powder form or it's just a big portion of vegetables. It's good enough for me. Vegetables have far more protein than people realize. A nice massage, also says Raul. Supa Dupa says whoop whoop poopy on gravy. Yeah, we go back to that. Lori Hall says foot rub. And surprisingly, I've been doing a lot of that this last week as well. Been rubbing my feet, massaging the bottoms of my feet just because of the numbness and stuff like that. Run Ray Fob says Emmys Schmemmys. I couldn't agree with you more. The Emmys, we see it every year. It's the same damn award show. I mean, obviously I have my favorite TV shows and I hope they win, Breaking Bad, but other than that, you see the same people dressed up in the same outfits touting each other's accomplishments, and it's tough. It's tough to sit through because it's not so it says fix your intro audio, Ethan. Saw the Ginger Runner banner but no audio. Oh, that's my fault. Yeah. Sorry about that. Oh, I realize, let's see. Maybe my audio is messed up here. It is messed up here. Hold on a second, guys. My audio is messed up. Now, can you hear me? I don't know. Let me know if you guys can hear me, because I just changed my audio input. I need to know if you guys can hear me. The audio is probably going to sound way better. Already. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to sound way better. How's that? All right, now we're back to normal. So sorry. So sorry to all of you. That is what I get. That is what I get for trying to be technically savvy. For some reason, the whole setup is just bonkers right now. Ethan's a robot. He's a robot. I knew it. Okay. Sorry. I fixed it. I fixed it, guys. Chill. Okay, so yeah, what I was saying before is spinach. Raul Engel says spinach. Yes, I agree. Spinach is totally good. I like kale as well. Watercress is also delicious and full of nutrients. Hexagontogenol. I want to say ginol, and I don't think that's actually what it is. Toenail. Don't get cocky, kid. Oh shit, I'm late. Yes, you are very late. We had a contest last week, and unfortunately, that was already claimed. for the free buff, which I will be sending to the winner of that contest. Dan Burke says, yeah, recently been enjoying the hydro massage tables at Planet Fitness, which I just talked about. I think they put you into the cocoon and they spray you with water. So that is, yeah, everyone's saying way worse. Perfect, great. Okay, anti-inflammatory diet. Totally sorry, guys. Obviously, the audio was the way it was before was bonkers, and that is my fault. Totally bonkers. I apologize. Fixed. So I'm going to go back to reading some of these comments. Hey Rob, we need to connect soon, says Chris to Rob Ricardo in the chat room. And Rob was saying sweet potatoes, lots of sweet potatoes. Hashtag secret remedy. I love sweet potatoes and yams as well. I love yams and sweet potatoes. And a big part of my recovery this last week has been eating that as much as possible. But I've been doing it in the form of sushi. For some reason, this last week I've been craving a shit ton of sushi. So I have been partaking and enjoying. Of course, Vancouver just has an incredible amount of sushi available to everybody. There's restaurants everywhere, all sorts of seafood and stuff like that. I don't necessarily eat seafood because I'm vegetarian, but every sushi restaurant has like a vegetarian menu, so you can get like asparagus and all these amazing mixtures of vegetables and stuff like that wrapped in rolls, and it's just been awesome. So the yam and the sweet potato rolls have been my nectar. I just went on a 144-mile backpacking trip and had the same thing happen to my feet. Kind of felt numb, says Timothy Dearden. Yeah, I think it could be a shoe choice. It could be the terrain. It could be any number of factors. I have not had this issue from running. I've had it from biking, but I figured that the biking was a result of the shoes being too narrow and cramping my feet, basically tightening my foot width, causing my foot to go numb. I don't think that's the same issue here because these are shoes that I run in all the time. So I was really surprised that I have any sort of numbness in the bottom of my feet, and just basically waiting it out and hoping for the best. I went on a short run today, went on about 5 miles of walk running around town, very flat, and they just still felt numb. It was like the feeling never came back, which is a bummer. Epsom salt says Kemosabi75. Yeah, an Epsom salt bath. Some people swear by it. I'm cool with it. I've done it a number of times after long, hard efforts. If I'm taking a hot shower, I usually just let the tub fill while I'm doing that, or get the dirt cleaned off of me first. Then let the tub fill and put Epsom salt in there and just soak in that for a good 15 minutes. And that tends to take some of the pain away the next day, but it's so hard to put that into a quantity, right? Like, oh, my pain was reduced 20%. It's hard to claim that. But I will do it. If it's anything that could possibly give me respite, I'll do it. Same with compression, like compression sleeves on the calves. I use those that night as well between races. Christian says, I tend not to want anything a while after I run, a long while after a long race. I'll drink a noon recovery drink, then move on to getting some protein. Quest bars are my favorite. Quest bars, I've heard a number of things about Quest bars having a lot of artificial chemicals that they aren't listing on the packaging. I'm curious about those because I have friends that use them as well. Swear by them because the flavors are so good, but that they're secret ingredients that they're not telling you because those flavors are so good. I don't know. I know nothing about them. I tend not to want anything a while after drink noon recovery drink. Got it. Yeah, noon is good. I have tons of friends that drink noon all the time. Very tasty stuff. Very, very tasty stuff. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. So here are some of my race recovery tips, particularly as a result of this race and races leading up to this race, because I knew a lot of those efforts would need the proper amount of recovery so I could continue with my training, because the last thing you want in a training cycle is injury, sickness, fatigue, something to basically throw a wrench into your training cycle that could cause you to have to take time off. That is obviously what we do not want. So we're riding this really fine line. This goes for all training. This goes for 10K, half marathon, full marathon, ultra training. Basically, we're all trying to walk that fine line of pushing our body, pushing our limits, getting comfortable with discomfort, but not pushing so hard that you fall over that cliff, because that cliff is it's a dangerous edge, and the last thing you want to do is have to take time off. Okay, so continue your comments, guys. Now that the audio got fixed again, we'll just continue with the regular chat room banter. And oh my God, I'm reading through the chat from when it turned into Robo Ginger, and people are freaking out. People, I am so sorry that you are so angry that the audio switched to something so terrible. You just gotta love YouTube and Google and how they're working so well hand in hand for these live streams. Either that or it's the internet in Canada. How does it feel to roll double ultra off of your tongue? Feels pretty good. Feels pretty damn good. There's, I don't remember how many finishers there were of the Squamish 50-50. I know that there were just shy of 100 that registered. I believe just shy of that, just a couple people shy of the registrants actually started it. So they did the 50-miler. I know that some of them dropped out of the 50-miler, and I know that some of them didn't even show up to the next day's starting line, which is a bummer. That's the biggest bummer to me, is that people ran the 50-miler and then did not show up to the 50K. Only because I know that at that point, it's all mental. It's a mental game. Unless they were injured from the 50-miler, that was a big bummer. So I think there was just shy of 40 finishers in the 50-50. So I'm happy to have the hat. How am I not wearing the hat? It's way over there. I don't want to leave you guys. You got so upset over the audio, I think you could only get even more upset if I leave you with blank screen. Yeah, David Hayes, I thought yams and sweet potatoes were the same thing. Pretty sure they are, depending on what region you're from. Yam and sweet potatoes are not the same thing, says Kimosabi. I don't know. They definitely look different. Some have a yellow innards, and some have an orange innards. But I like the sweet potatoes myself. What's your reverse taper plan of attack here on out? Reverse taper? You mean like build back up? I will get to that later in the episode. Okay. Tip number 1. This one's super easy, and I've been doing it all week. Rest. Rest. Take the time to rest. So for me, after a marathon, when I first started running, a marathon would take me a week or two to recover from. I would do what I did this week and take a whole week off. You know, I would start running maybe the Friday, Saturday after just to kind of gauge where I'm at, but I still need the recovery. When you run a hard effort like a marathon and your body is not used to running beyond that distance, or your body's not used to training super hard, and you race the marathon as hard as you can, you need that rest. You need that recovery. As the years went on and more training has kind of taken over my schedule, the recovery after a marathon distance or half marathon distance has shortened for me to a couple of days. You know, I'll usually be able to get up and run the Tuesday or Wednesday following the race. But this is effort dependent. If a marathon is your A race, let's say you want to qualify for Boston, and you go out there and you race your ass off for a Boston qualifying time at a marathon, you're going to need more time to recover. And this is going to be 100%. This whole show, let me just point this out as well. This whole show is going to be person dependent, because how I recover is nowhere close to how people like Michael Wardian recovers. He recovers in an hour. I mean, he's already ready to race the next day. There are people that will recover much faster than you, and there are people that might recover slower than you. I don't know where I fall into that spectrum. And honestly, it doesn't really matter where you fall either. You are the only one that knows how much time your body will need to recover. So when I say these times or anything like that, it's for me. I hope that you are able to kind of gauge that with yourself based off of these races. But it will also be effort dependent. When it comes to ultras, I feel like anybody from the first finisher to the last finisher is putting in a big effort. If you're racing fast in an ultra, you're putting in a crazy amount of energy into racing. Even though you're out there for a smaller period of time, you're still putting your body through a crazy amount of stress, both physically and mentally. But the people who are out there hours and hours beyond the first finisher, they are also putting their body through mental and physical stress, a lot of it. So you will all need time to recover. So rest. And by rest, I mean kick your feet up, relax. If you have a full-time job, go to your job, but maybe kick a chair up next to you and keep your feet up on the chair all day. Don't get up and walk around outside for lunch all the time and stuff like that. Be a slug, be a sloth. Take the time to just let your body settle down. I know that between the races, between Saturday and Sunday race, just that weekend, I was like, my skin was super hot. my body wasn't hot, but my skin was super hot, and like my body just the temperatures were fluctuating, and it took days for that to kind of settle down. So there's a lot of things going on physiologically that you need to just kind of let calm down, especially after hard efforts. So take the time to rest. In addition to that, sleep. Sleep your ass off. If you work a 9 to 5, I know a lot of ultra runners that do work 9 to 5s. They are working Monday through Friday, usually pretty stressful jobs too. Make sure you go to bed early enough where you can get 8, 9, 10 hours of sleep. Your body will need that sleep. Last week, I'm trying to think. Basically, time is just kind of mushed together for me. But I would go to bed pretty early for my schedule, and I would wake up pretty late for my schedule. I'm getting 10 hours of sleep a night. I'm lucky to be able to get that, but I'm also trying to be diligent about not messing with my sleep schedule and just letting my body get what it needs. So rest, 100% rest. It is what your body needs to recover actively all the time. Okay, Rob Ricardo is going to settle the sweet potato 101. Sweet potato 101, all yams here in the U.S. are sweet potatoes. Yam was just a marketing term. A true yam is native to Africa. It's massive and can be very toxic if not cooked correctly. Yes, I am a nerd, says Rob Ricardo. Thank you, my friend. What a great... But there are different versions, though. Yes, Rob? Because there's yellow and orange. Sweet potatoes and yams, they might be the same tuber, but they have different colors, so I'm assuming maybe that's a species differential. Maybe you can specify on that too. Runaway Fob, ART massage, when to get them. Runaway Fob, I love ART treatments. I consider them like a godsend for specific injuries. At least in my experience, I had some hip flexor issues about a year ago, and I had hamstring issues, which you might remember from my training for Squamish videos. Both of those were solved with ART to some degree. So I don't get ART all the time because it's pretty invasive. But when I've had it, it has worked wonders for me and really solved a lot of my injury issues. Couldn't agree more. So make sure you find a good ART treater, specialist, I think is a better word than treater. Recovery time depends on the person. Usually it's quicker the longer you've been running. Raul, I kind of agree with that, yes. Some people are just born with a natural ability to recover quicker. I will say that my recovery time has definitely decreased between periods of when I need to recover. However, I think, again, that's going to be effort dependent. After running the San Francisco Marathon, I put in an okay effort at the San Francisco Marathon. I did not push super hard because I knew that I had a race in a couple weeks, Squamish 50-50. However, I was blown away by my time, 2 seconds off my marathon PR, which that marathon PR 2 years earlier took all the effort in my body to get. At that time, a 3:40 marathon or whatever it is, I've actually kind of physically pushed it out of my mind because I don't want to care about it. I think it was 3:40, 3:44, it was low 3:40s. That took all of my energy and all of my effort that day to get that PR, and I can remember taking a week or two to recover after that because it was such a crazy effort. Running the San Francisco Marathon weeks ago, I was 2 seconds off that PR pace, but yet recovered within a day or two. So yes, recovery has changed for me as my efforts have also changed over the years. So it felt like that's why I left the San Francisco Marathon. Like, I don't care that I was 2 seconds off my PR. The fact that I was able to run that race with a far minimal effort versus 2 years earlier where I was pushing myself to throw up essentially the entire way, that felt better than getting a PR because that showed progress. And it was definitely a good mental switch for the Squamish 50-50 coming up. Okay, so rest. We've already talked about rest. Let's move on to the next one. Diet. We've already talked about sweet potatoes and yams in the chat room. Diet to me is a huge factor. The problem is that I am the first person to admit I suck at this aspect of it. Yes, I'm a vegetarian and I try to put everything whole and organic and real whole food into my body, but I am a sucker for sweets. I'm a sucker for dessert type items, right? I'm a sucker for a cold beer at the end of a race. The thing is as much as I tout train race beer, and I live by that, you know, I reward myself with one beer or some like good flavored beer once in a while. I maybe drink once a week. It's usually on Mondays with you guys. Um, so I try diligently to drink and eat well. But man, if like right after a race, that's when I just go nuts, and that's what sucks. Uh, I stay away from stuff like Alfredo or like really creamy, heavy items. But for some reason, I'm like, let's go get pizza. We're getting pizza right away, and then I'm gonna have like pie or cake for dessert, or I'm gonna have a fucking donut for breakfast. Like that's when my mind just lets everything go. Yes, train hard, race harder, party hardest, and technically my party hardest is just eating a fucking apple fritter every morning for a week. Because why not, right? But that's a deep trap to fall into, where you tell yourself the race effort is done. Now I can just do whatever I want. Uh, I know, and I've read it and I've heard it, that the best way to recover is to also incorporate a clean and efficient diet right after a hard effort, because you want to continue to feed your body what it needs as opposed to what your mind wants to feed it. Um, whole foods, vegetables, tons of vegetables, real clean eating, yams, sweet potatoes. Fill your body with the good stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely the first person to call myself out on it. Absolutely 100%. And you'll eat a salad for lunch and go, ah, oh, okay, good. I'm eating my salad. That's good. I needed to recover with a good amount of vegetables. And you're like, well, I ate a salad for lunch. I can have some ice cream for dessert. And then you eat a fucking tub of Ben and Jerry's because you're like, I earned it. I ate a salad today, and I ran an effort this weekend. So give me that tub of Ben and Jerry's, y'all. Doesn't work that way. So yeah, I'm a big criminal in that sense. But I know what I need to do, and I'll focus on that after future races. So yeah, that's definitely on my list of tips. And that also goes for liquid. As much as a cold brew tastes delicious after a long, hard effort, um, know what you're putting into your body, and know that there's definitely a limit to the quantity that you should be putting in. I'll just leave it at that. Magnesium-rich food for muscle relaxation. Dark green leafy, says Kimosabe. Okay, yeah, I definitely agree with the green leafy scenario. I loved during my training going to a salad bar. There's a great salad bar near my house in Los Angeles where I could just load up on kale and spinach and really good hearty leafy greens, all like deep green and fresh, and then load it up with garbanzo beans for like protein-based sources, beets. I really love beets, and come on, like while I'm there, I know exactly what I'm putting on my salad bar. For some reason now, I can't even think for the life of me. I would put on eggs. I like the sliced eggs, and mix it all up, and you have yourself like a really great salad. So for my training period, I would eat that shit religiously, and it was so good. And honestly, I think that helped my training a lot. Like being able to eat good, wholesome vegetables and just big piles of it, and not feel like I'm really starving when I'm done eating it, and being able to wake up the next day and running another hard effort. And yes, there were lots of low points in my training where I'm just like super tired, and obviously pushing the mileage week after week after week, it takes its toll, and you have to do whatever you can to make sure that your body recovers as quickly as possible. And that for me is putting in lots of good stuff. But once you hit that race, and all of a sudden everything just goes to shit. Thank you, Kimosabe, for saying Grinds is my trail running anthem. I appreciate you guys continuing to support that album. It's really, really, really awesome. Okay. I already talked a little bit about it earlier, but here's another point, and this goes to ice bath or salt soaking. I think that the ice bath is a really good immediate treatment after a run. If you run on trails that are near a river, jump into the river. I don't have that in California. We have a really ice cold pool because we basically don't heat the thing. It's solar heated, but the sun never hits it, so it's always ice cold. So I usually, after a run, I'll just go soak in that. I'll just sit in it and soak in it for a good 15, 20 minutes, and it feels great. I know people that live near rivers, and they just go sit in the river. There's one here in Vancouver that Kim goes to after all of her hard training efforts, and we went into it the other night. There's some picture on my Instagram. And it was amazing to be able to just sit in the river and just let it go over my legs and keep everything cool and ice cold. So I totally believe in ice baths. and salt soaks. I think that those are two things that, like, why not? Why not incorporating them to your training? What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to sit in ice. That's about it. Or sit in salt. So try it. Give it a shot. The next 2 points are really important to me. And basically, there are things that I continue to tell myself and continue to harp on. First of which, do not become a slave to your schedule. And I'm talking about your training schedule. Hold on while I take a sip of my Saison. I realize that I barely touched this thing. So when it comes to training schedules, we tend to either write them ourselves, we have a coach write them for us, or following some sort of online plan. When I first started running, I was following the online plan. Hal Higdon has a great one online. Everyone can go find the Hal Higdon plan. That usually is for a marathon distance of varying speeds or abilities. So when I first started, I was religious about following his plan. And I kind of, the more marathons I ran, the more I kind of worked it to my schedule or made it more difficult for me so I could challenge myself. Excuse me, that's going to happen. But I have to tell you, the more that I've done this and the more that I've talked to professionals who do this for a living and read books and kind of followed the trail running community from afar, kind of as an outsider, you see that people become a lot more accustomed to allowing that schedule to be more fluid, because you don't know what day you're going to wake up and all of a sudden I can't put any effort into today. Yes, there's a line between those are the days you need to get up and you need to push yourself harder, because that's what ultra is all about. Running an ultra is all about pushing yourself beyond what you think you're capable of doing. So the day that you wake up and you're like, I don't want to fucking run today, and you go run and you go put in a hard effort and then you finish, you're like, oh, it was awesome. There are days like that, yes, where you do need to push through, but there are also times when you just need to stop and listen to your body and not be a slave to your schedule. You run 6 days in a row, 7 days in a row, and you're exhausted by the end of it, give yourself a rest day. Yes, you deserve it. Your body deserves it. It could only benefit you. I mean, a day or two taking a break is not going to destroy any sort of training. I will be the first to say that. There were weeks in this last training schedule when I was training for Squamish 50/50, like after my first 90-plus mile week, I think it was like 95 miles or whatever I ran, it was in the Training for Squamish series. I think it's episode number 1. That week was the longest mileage I've ever run in my entire life over the course of a week. It was 90-something miles. I'd never run even remotely close to that. I think the highest number before that week was in the the upper 70s. So that was a huge jump for me. And what that ended up doing was putting added stress, added pressure, added effort into my body, my muscles, my core, everything, and I needed to recover from that because I did not give myself a break. I basically ran 6 or 7 days, I think it was 7 days that week, hard, because I really want to go for that 100-mile week. I want to go for that 100-mile week. I got close, I didn't get to it, but holy shit, that whole week required almost a week of recovery, because I wasn't smart about it. I didn't build up naturally to it. I didn't give myself enough break leading up to it. So it wasn't the smartest thing, and I ended up suffering the consequences of that. I was able to build up some other weeks past that, but each time I would build up those weeks, the 93-mile week kept rearing its ugly head, and it's like, you still haven't recovered from that week that you did hard effort, big miles in the mountains, not race effort. I'm not saying like full-out race effort. I'm just saying that's a lot of miles to put on a body that isn't necessarily built to go those long miles. I'm a bigger guy. I'm 184. So putting in those miles and that effort, it takes its toll, and sometimes you won't even feel it for a while. But I was so slave to that schedule that you have to be more flexible. You have to be more fluid and be able to throw in a rest day or two. You just have to be okay with it. And that dovetails into my last point for proper race recovery. Do not compare yourself to others. And this goes across the board for running. Distances, training, speed, everything. Do not compare yourself to others. When it comes to recovery, like I mentioned it before, there will be others that recover faster than you, and there will be others that recover slower than you. You will always look at the people who recover faster than you. and go, fuck, I'm not recovering fast. I'm not even remotely close to as fast as this guy's recovering. And you will continue to compare yourself to that person, as opposed to looking behind you and going, oh, well, there's people who take longer than me to recover. And these guys are all-stars. Like, some of these guys are elite athletes, sponsored athletes who go and win races, and they are recovering slower than me. You never look that direction. You always look at the people who are recovering faster than you. I have to be honest, and I think that a lot of people that recover faster than you may be pushing their bodies too quickly, too soon, too hard, too quickly after a large, hard effort. And you'll see it. There's a number of pro athletes in the ultra community and across the board, football, I mean, all sports, where they come back from an injury or they come back from a hard race effort and they go right back into their regular training schedule, and then you'll see it throughout the rest of the season. That comes back and rears its ugly head. You'll never be able to pinpoint it like, oh, well, they didn't recover this one day, so unfortunately it's rearing its head, 6 months later. But you can't help but wonder, are they doing too much too soon? Maybe. I don't think there's anything necessarily negative about taking that extra time to recover and to let your body heal, to let your body get ready for the next effort. Because, as runners, we're going to want to push our bodies hard. We're going to want to get faster. We want to go farther. We want to do bigger things, more epic adventures. We want all those fucking selfies in the middle of the Grand Canyon because we're running rim to rim to rim, whatever. And just know that sometimes those hard efforts need the proper duration of recovery time. So don't compare yourself to others, and especially don't compare yourself to elites, because they are elite. The last race, the Squamish 50-50, I'm looking at Mike Wardy, and he's an incredible athlete. And I talked to him before and after the races, and I hope to get him on the show. I mentioned, hey, I'd love to get you on the show. I want to talk about recovery with you. And he's like, yeah, totally. So hopefully I can get in touch with him and make that happen. He recovers, like I mentioned, instantly. The guy can run a stage race like nobody's business. He did the Squamish 50-50. He won the Squamish 50-50. That delegation of races, because he's able to recover instantly. It's incredible. I cannot compare myself to Michael Wardian because, one, my body is completely different than his, and I have to be okay with that. And two, he's been running a lot longer than me, and his body is used to that quick recovery. Whatever he's doing it right, and he's been doing it for a long time. He's trained himself to do it. So I have to be okay with that, and I am. I have friends that recover faster than me, and it pisses me off. But you know what? Can't let it get to me. I can recover as fast as I can recover. That's it. Okay. All hail Hal Higdon, says Spec Diesel. I got to be honest. When I first started, the Hal Higdon recipe helped and got me through my first few marathons. Absolutely 100%. And with the advent of the internet, there are a lot of programs out there put out by people who maybe ran a handful of marathons and all of a sudden like, oh, I know how this is done. Let me put out the schedule. And it can fuck up a lot of people. But Hal Higdon's is just like a solid platform to build off mileage. I know that a lot of his programs are out there for free, and I don't know if he ever intended them to be free or if they come out of books or people just rewrote them and put them on the internet. So it's a touchy subject, but I imagine you can find them pretty easily. Kimosabe says, I used to use resting heart rate. I now have a sensor for my iPhone to measure HRV, which is heart rate variability. To what are you referring, Kimosabe? Caliope Zero, you've already proved that you're a bit of a masochist by running so far. May as well just extend that into your ice bath. Totally agree. Absolutely agree 100%. Huge advocate of doing yoga for recovery as a supplement for extra mileage. It's the main thing that's helped to bring me back from injury after a long year off of racing, says Robert Cardo. You know what? I agree. I agree with that. I will say that active recovery has its place 100%, and I've been trying to do that this last weekend and this week and today, and just kind of getting my body moving. The effort that I know I'm going to be putting into things is going to be far less than an effort that I would do during a regular training schedule. Like today, I ran 5 miles, walking and running, but the effort was so low. It was just whatever my body was capable of doing at that point. I have to also say that yoga, yes, yoga is a good active recovery. It's getting those muscles that are now super tight after doing a hard effort, letting them stretch again and letting your body kind of fall into those positions and working those muscles in slight variations in the poses and holding them. Couldn't agree with you more. and actually need to do more active yoga. In Los Angeles, there are some yoga sessions that are free in the park where you have to do is show up, and they usually do them 2 or 3 times a day there in the summer. You usually have to deal with really loud people and dogs and crazy shit because you're out in nature, but at the same point, it's free yoga, and they're very good classes. So maybe there's something like that near you, where you guys live. I'm going to scroll up a little bit, see if there's anything in the comments that I missed before I move on to the pro tips from Dom Grossman, from Sally McRae, and Chris Vargo. Grinds, great album, love it, but are you making money with it being on Spotify? I have no idea, Runaway Fob. Honestly, I have no idea. How it works is I released the album through TuneCore, which is a service that allows you to promote your music through all music venues, so iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, Spotify. It basically puts it out there. And I think the way Spotify works is that every play, I don't have Spotify. I don't know why I don't have it. I have Pandora and I have all those, like Slacker and stuff. But I believe that every play generates some sort of income based off of ads that play. I think ads in Spotify. If it's like Pandora, which I believe it is, an ad will play every 4 to 5 or 6 songs, and that ad revenue goes to pay the artists fractions of whatever, like a cent every 5 plays or something. I don't know how it works. I really do not, and I will not know if I make any money off the album for another 2 to 3 months. It is quarterly, so it's interesting. But thank you for liking the album. I very, very much appreciate it. And for those of you who are like, album, what are you talking about? I released an album, Ginger Runner Grinds. It's on iTunes, Amazon, Google. I mean, it's everything. It's everywhere. Go find it. Go download it. Tell your friends about it. It was top 15 electronic albums on iTunes for the whole weekend that I released it, and I'm fucking blown away by that. Cannot believe it. I'm swearing a lot during tonight's show, and I apologize because some of you listen with your families and watch with your kids. So if you have your kids in your lap and I'm swearing uncontrollably, I'm terribly sorry. I blame the Saison. The Saison, for some reason, just turns me into a curse word. That's good. But it's warming up and it's getting really bubbly. And that is not a good beer. It's a good beer. It's just not good when it's warm. An app, if athlete measures HFV for maffetones, fan, check it out. I'm sorry, Kimasabi, I read that like that because I can't read the sentence well. Yeah, so Robert Carter was talking about yoga. Okay, so the first tips will be coming from Dom Grossman. If you don't know who Dom Grossman is, figure it out. He's an incredible runner, really, really fit dude, and he's pretty forthcoming with a lot of his training. Not only does he have a blog where he outlines a lot of his training leading up to AC and talks a bit about overtraining in some situations. He was doing, I believe he called it the full Blarney, 10 weeks of over 100 miles per week. And he felt, he actually goes into some pretty lengthy detail. And we're going to talk to him about that when I get him on the show in 2 Mondays. Definitely something I want to talk to him about. But he mentions it in his blog, and I encourage you to go find it and to read it. But he talks about basically putting out there into the social media ethosphere that he was doing this full Blarney, where 10 weeks in a row he would run for at least 100 miles. And he got so caught up in that it could have been the detriment to his race at Western States, where he, I don't want to put words into his mouth, but he blew up the first 30 miles, recovered incredibly well, I have to say, recovered incredibly well, I believe from mile 50 on, still finished top 20, I believe it was 19th or something like that, which is an incredible feat. But he had a really tough race, the first section of Western States, which he was not anticipating, and he likens it to the fact that he got caught up in this idea of running 10 hard weeks with long efforts over 100 miles in a row. And by putting it out there to the public that he was doing this, or sharing on Strava and sharing his mileage data on Twitter and all this kind of stuff, that he got so caught up in that and wasn't able to let it go when he felt his body had reached its peak. So that's something really, really interesting. He's an incredible runner. You can learn a lot from the guy. I can't wait to have him on the show to talk about it. But here are some of his tips on recovery. Number one, real simple, and I talked briefly about it. You guys have mentioned it in the chat room. Eating protein and carbs within 30 minutes helps a lot. Like I said, I do the Recoverite because it's really easy for me to just carry a pouch of it, pump it into a water bottle, jerk off a giraffe and then drink it. It's incredible how much I feel like that helps. I mean, you're basically replenishing what your body has been burning. I did something. Oh, I forgot to mention this last week. Something that Sally McRae did. It's something that Billy Yang did as a result of Sally McRae doing it, and it's something I did as a result of seeing them two do it, and it works as far as I know. At mile 33 of the 50 miler on Saturday, I took an Ensure. So a little bottle of Ensure, the old grandpa drink. I did mention this. I forgot to mention this. It has 10 grams of protein, has 250 calories. It tastes like chocolate milk, has all the nutrients, has all these great things in it that help replenish your body. I'm sure a lot of sugar as well. But at that point in an ultra, you're basically whatever you put into your body is just you're just feeding that steam engine. So I chugged one of those at mile 33, and whether it helped or not, I would definitely consider it a yes, because at that point, my body was most likely already working through proteins. So by shoving some protein in there, I can imagine that helped, at least in recovery, because your body begins to recover as it's putting out effort. So I definitely will consider doing that again in any distance of 50 miles or greater, for sure. He has the power of the unicorn, says Raul. He does indeed. And if you follow him on Instagram, he recently posted a picture of him in a child's small T-shirt of a unicorn. I believe it's a girl's small T-shirt. Really, 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 really adorable. So go check him out. Yeah, you know what? I don't have his website URL, but I am going to pull it up because it's one of those weird blog spot ones, right? So Dominic Grossman, I should have been far more prepared for this. Over the Peak and Through the Pines, it's DominicGrossman.com. That's actually pretty easy. And it's twitter.com/young ultra run. Youngun, but it's UN. So it's Young on Ultra Run. That's on Twitter for him. Really, really sweet dude. Funny dude. We'll have him on the show live with Katie Desplinter in 2 weeks. So that was tip number one. His second tip, and this is a great one, sleep. When you need the rest, don't think you're recovering with less sleep and lower mileage. Yeah, so he says sleep in when you need that rest. And I have been living that this whole last week. Kim can attest to it. I have been sleeping as much as physically possible. If you need a nap in the afternoon, you take that nap. Listen to the sleep cycle that your body needs, because something in there is needing that sleep to recover, whether it's the muscles, whether it's your I don't know, whatever the chemical balance in your body is at that point. You'll need that sleep. And I couldn't agree more with him with less sleep and lower mileage does not equal recovery. So don't think, oh, you know what, I'm just going to go for 2 miles today. It's not a lot of mileage. It should be fine. That's not recovering. That's putting additional stress on your body. Just let the sleep happen. Let the body recover as much as it needs. Like today's 5-mile run, I'll be honest, like when I was in it, I'm like, oh, good, it feels good to run again. I just all I wanted to do was run. At the same point, I'm like, I probably shouldn't even be putting in any effort today. And so I would walk. Anytime my mind was like, what are you doing? I just stopped and walked. I mean, it's so beautiful here anyways that you can walk and just go, this is incredible, and spend as much time as you want out there. So walking, I did a lot of that today, and I'm okay with that. Oh, Kimberly's in the chat. Oh no! Oh no! Kimberly, you missed the beginning of the show. I apologize. I am drinking our beer. I was going to run across the street and buy another one before you got home. Caught red-handed. Caught size-on-handed. At the beginning of the show, I mentioned Kim's going to hate me for opening this. It's the only beer in the house. So don't worry, babe. I'll get another one across the street. Totally caught red-handed. She's at work. You're at work. Go back to work. Really, really funny. Yeah, Kimberly Tsushima says, Cody, I'm at work. He's at home drinking my beer. Whoops. All right. So thanks, Dom, for those tips. I really appreciate it. And take it from Dom. He's kind of the expert. He's run a number of 100-milers. He's won AC 100, an incredible athlete, and he continues to run incredible races. He did the Gorge 50K last year. He actually makes a brief appearance in my Gorge 50K video. I believe he got second place or something like that, second or third place. after having a rough start on that day too, which is crazy to think. All right, let's move on. Sally McRae has a couple of tips for us. Many of you are familiar with Sally McRae. My Crewing States film, which is on my YouTube channel, is all about her and finishing 10th at Western States. Here are some of her tips, and they are from the pro herself, Nike team runner. Oh, and I should say that Dom Grossman is a New Balance athlete. He also is sponsored by Power. What are we talking about? Power Bar, Power Fuel, Power Bar athlete, and they do a lot of the protein powders and stuff like that he's talking about, where after a run you'll want to take protein and calories and stuff like that. So he swears by the Pro Bar stuff. Pro Bar, Power Bar. Get it right. So Sally McRae, Nike runner. Rule number 1. The golden rule of refueling is to eat, drink well within 30 to 45 minutes post-workout. A snack balanced with carbs and protein is essential to the recovery process. Same thing that Dominic said. Same thing that I've just been doing because I don't know any better, and I've only had people tell me that. But there is a scientific method to this, and Sally also attests to that, and that is to put those calories in your body within 30 to 45 minutes after a hard workout. And that includes carbs and proteins. I think a lot of people forget about the proteins, or they'll just drink some sort of carb drink or whatever they were taking as fuel, like a gel. They'll just think, oh, I'll just take a gel at the end of a race or something, to help replenish the calories. It's more than that. It's more than that. Building blocks, people. Building blocks for recovery. Sally McRae, number 2 tip. Water. It's a good one. Simple tip, but it's important not only for rehydration, but for flushing your body of toxins. Stay on top of your water post-workout. Yes. And as she says that, I have a big mug of water. Don't worry, those of you who are listening to the podcast, it did not end. I just chugged a big glass of water. Water is crucial to recovery. And I, again, could be doing a far better job of drinking more water for recovery. Yes, you want to build up that water. I mean, you should be drinking tons of water every day. I think I just took my weight and divided it in half, and that is the number of ounces of water you should be drinking every single day. Every single day, not just in recovery. But leading up to every race, I try to make sure that 2 weeks out, I'm on that number. I'm on 80 to 90 ounces, in my case, of water a day, just to make sure that I'm flushing through the water before the race comes up. If you start drinking that kind of water 2 or 3 days before, all you're doing is flushing out all the good stuff in your system. So you want to make sure that you were drinking plenty of water leading up to a race weeks out in advance, and just do it regularly. I know that I need to get better at it too, because sometimes I'm just not thirsty, right? But put it in. And so her recovery tip with water, I think, is also extremely crucial to the process. Make sure that you're continuing to put water into your body, because you have burned through so much of it during the race effort. The last thing you want to do is just leave your body dehydrated. Leave those cells super dried out so they have nothing to do or nothing to process, no water to absorb. Continue to put it in. And her third and final tip, sleep, sleep, sleep. Talk about it all show. Sally says, I had to succumb to this tip this past weekend. I had run myself ragged last week and started to get a sore throat and a slight fever, so I made the tough decision to not run at all on Saturday and Sunday and just get extra sleep. Monday morning, I awoke feeling refreshed and strong, and in turn had a quality track workout. Recovering right means listening to your body and giving it exactly what it needs, not what your training plan tells you that it needs. So I couldn't agree more with the sleep. And that actually goes in dovetails with my point also with making sure that you don't always have to listen to your training schedule. Listen to your body first. So yeah, sleep is absolutely 100% crucial. And I have to say, if your body needs that extra day of recovery, and that happens to fall on a Saturday or Sunday when most of us take our long training runs, let your body recover. There's nothing telling you that you can't do a long run during the week. I get it. If you have a 9 to 5, try putting in that hard effort after a long day of work. I think that would only, like if for some reason you need to move one of those long workouts to a Monday or to a Tuesday, do it. Challenge yourself. Do a long day of work and fuel yourself right throughout the whole day in preparation for that long run at night. Run home from work. I know some of you probably work 60 miles from home, so don't run that. But maybe find a place that you can drive to or something like that and put in that hard effort. It doesn't matter if the sun goes down, get a headlamp. see if you can do that, because that will also contribute to race day strategy, where you're like, I've already worked through a tough day of work, then a long run in the PM. That is mental strength right there. That is just going to help you on race day, knowing that you can push through the tough times because you've already done it. So thank you, Sally McRae, Yellow Runner. You can find her on all the social networks as well. She's just an incredible runner, a big friend of the show. I try to get her on whenever I can. She's always very, very busy. And I do have to plug Western Time, the movie by Billy Yang Films, is coming out, I believe, on September 6th. He is doing a screening of it in Los Angeles. So if you are in the Los Angeles area, tickets are now available for that if you go to the Facebook page, Billy Yang Films, and find out where you can get those tickets. Come watch the film that Billy put together following Sally and her Western States effort. Crewing States is just kind of supplemental material to what Billy's been making, because Billy has been putting in crazy effort filming for months Sally's leading up to the race itself, and I believe even some post-race stuff. So you won't want to miss this film. I believe he'll make it available to the masses eventually. I don't know when. So if you're not in the Los Angeles area, just plan on seeing it. There might be some sort of rental thing going on somewhere, or maybe DVD. I don't know what he plans to do with it, but we will all be there on Saturday, September 6th, so you won't want to miss that. And now Chris Vargo. Grace, so be the word of God. Chris Vargo, I asked him to send me some recovery tips as well, because he's, again, an elite athlete and training for UROC. He's got his big race coming up, and he's already done a number of races this year, won many of them, if not all of them, that he's entered or hasn't DNF'd. But he puts in incredible efforts when he's racing. He's so fucking fast. He's also a tiny little man. He's so skinny and so amazingly fit. And he also comes from a biking background too. So he's been in the elite sports world for quite a while and has a number of good, responsible recovery tips. So I asked him, hey, send me some recovery tips. And so here's Chris Vargo's first go at recovery tips. Test new gear nutrition well before your next race. Okay. Sleep at least 8 to 10 hours a night. Definitely. And always carry something to whip your ass with. Wipe your ass with. Okay. So those are the texts that I got from Chris, and I had to remind him recovery tips. We're talking recovery, because I think those are just great general tips. I should have saved those for just the tip with Chris Vargo next week, but I had to read them because I thought it was hilarious. Laughed my ass off. Sleep 8 to 10 hours a night. Take naps under your desk at work, like George Costanza. Always eat something with a 4-to-1 carb to protein ratio within 30 minutes of running. So this is the same thing that everyone's been preaching, and if every elite athlete is preaching the same thing, I'm believing that there's some truth to this. So the 4-to-1 carb ratio, protein, carb to protein, so 4 carbs for every 1 gram of protein, within 30 to 45 minutes of a workout, I think is crucial, and I think that's just something we should just do. So it's not just, hey, let's drink a beer after a race because it feels or tastes good. Do something smart and get that 4-to-1 ratio in there. Elevate legs as much as possible. Post-race massages a few days after the race. And, oh yeah, and then he says, change the audio back. It's way worse. Thanks, Chris. So these are great tips. Elevate the legs as much as possible, I think, is a good one. I did that night between the Squamish 50-miler and 50K, and I think that helped considerably with the foot pain. I was able to get through the foot pain the second day. If I didn't do that, I imagine I'd still be hobbling. And the post-race massages. I see these after every major race, whether it's a marathon or an ultra. There's some sort of booth set up where people can just get their massages. I have a problem with the massage right after a race effort, mainly because your muscles are already so floppy and strength or lengthened at that point that I feel like getting a massage might do more detriment than it would good. So I like to wait a day or two to get those massages, to kind of work out that lactic acid that builds up in there, to work out that scar tissue and the muscle breakings and stuff like that. Really get in there. But I think a really hard massage might be also a pain in the ass, literally. So maybe just a nice, soft, full body massage at that point. If you have tender spots, let your masseuse or your massage therapist know, and trouble spots and stuff like that. Okay, I want to check in with the chat room. Spare Tire Running Club says water, that is, a gallon of water a day. I drink a gallon. Yeah. I mean, I think that's good. I actually use the same tool to measure how much water I would drink a day. I carry a gallon around, not up here in Canada, because they do things metrically. But when I'm back in Los Angeles, I have a gallon that I just carry, and I try to fill with it at least halfway with water twice a day. So I would do the same thing. It's just an easy visual reminder to like keep drinking out of a gallon jug. So if you're passing me in the car and you see me pulling a gallon jug up to my mouth, that's all I'm doing is hydrating. Um, yeah, sorry, Kim, she's still in there. As long as there's a new saison in the fridge when I get home, which there will be, as long as I can get buzzed back into the building, I will make sure that there is one here cold waiting for you. But look, I've really barely touched this. I don't know why. During a live show, I don't drink super hard. So there's plenty here for you, babe. All you have to do is just get home. That's it. That's easy. The type of protein is important too. Very important, says Raul. I agree with that too. That's why I like to strategically use whether it's Recoverite or I know Vega makes a pretty good recovery protein. Um, Fluid, I believe, also makes a really good recovery protein powder. What are your favorites? I know that a lot of you probably have your favorite recovery powders. They tend to be a perfect mixture of whatever you need. Some brands do better than others. Some use more sugar than others. So it really depends. But I also like to, if I can, if I'm near a blender, I'll mix in fruit or a banana and spinach and almond milk. I like to try to make it as hearty as possible so that I'm not only getting what I need as far as the 4-to-1 ratio, but I'm also getting additional like fruits and vegetables and good nutrients at that point. Uh, Growth hormone equals rest and repair. Huge amount of growth hormone is released during sleep. There you go. Kimosabe, dropping the knowledge in that chat room. Love it. Better get comfortable on that couch, Ethan. So, yeah, I have to. All right, so I mean, I think that's pretty much it for tonight's episode. I wanted to make sure that I talked more in detail about recovery, specifically what's going on right now with me. If you guys have any additional questions, stick around. I like to do a post show with my viewers. It might be 10 or 15 minutes. It won't be super long, but it'll be enough for if you guys have any additional questions or anything like that about how recovery or training will be going for me, let me know. But that's it for tonight's episode. So I have to thank Dom Grossman, Sally McRae, and Chris Vargo for dropping some points. I will have all of them on the show very, very soon. Chris Vargo will be on next week. Dominic Grossman, Katie Displayer will be on 2 weeks. I'm very excited about that. And we'll have many, many more guests coming up on Ginger Runner Live. So this is episode number 29. I appreciate you guys watching live. Go back to the Emmys. Go enjoy the Hollywood lifestyle, glitz and glam. All of those celebrities just giving each other hugs and talking about how much they love each other's careers, but in reality, all they want is each other's careers. That's how it works, my friends. I live there. I know. But that's it. I can't thank you guys enough for the continued support on social media, the continued support with the album, the continued support since the race. If you could do me a favor and just continue to share, that's pretty much it. Share the stuff of mine that you like, because the people, if you like it, then it usually means the people that you like will like it as well. And I like to continue to build this audience. So if you have not already, go purchase Grinds on iTunes. Just search for Ginger Runner Grinds, and we'll pop up right there. Grab that album. It's $9.99 on iTunes. It's $8.99 on Amazon. Don't know why it's $1 cheaper. It just is. I actually really don't know why it's $1 cheaper. Go buy it on Amazon. I don't know how much of that I get. I don't know if I get any of it. I don't know. We'll see in 3 months. But continue to support in that way. Also, youtube.com/thegingerrunner. Subscribe. You're there already. Just subscribe to the channel, and I post videos twice a week. We do the live show every single Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with guests or myself and a beer that's half drank. But I will always be pushing out new content. And this week, I believe I'm doing another shoe review. And then next week, I will be posting my San Francisco Marathon film. And the week after that, ooh, I don't know, maybe some Squamish 50/50 stuff. It's going to be a big one. The Squamish 50/50 film is going to be a big one. 3 cameras, multiple hours of footage. Got a lot of sorting to do. It's going to be a monster. That's it. I hope you guys are recovering hard and training hard and racing harder and partying the hardest. Just do that extra recovery for me. Get that sleep. Eat that food. I will continue to eat the food, all of it, in the coming week. We'll see how my body feels next week. I plan on kind of starting to run again by the end of this week, early next week. We'll just see how my body feels. I am 100% fluid with this, so if my body feels it, I'm going for it. If it doesn't, I'm holding off. I'm just really, really excited to get back out there. And there is a race at the end of September that I really want to do. And I say race, it would not be a hard effort. It would be just a fun effort, and that is the Sky Pilot race, which is back up here in Vancouver. It's actually closer to Squamish. And you take that gondola up, which is in one of my Training for Squamish videos, and you run along the peaks up there. And I believe there's some via ferrata up there that they're going to be installing on the cliff sides. It's freaking me out, and I'm like, I got to do it, even if it's an easy effort day, which would still be a really long day. We'll talk about it next week. I don't want to talk anymore about it because this show is done. You guys are fantastic. I cannot thank you enough for watching Ginger Runner Live episode number 29. We'll see you guys next week. If you'd like, stick around. I'll be talking more in the post show. That's it for tonight's show. All right. Bye. I don't know what was going on with the audio tonight. I'm sorry I even switched it. Someone said that the audio in the intro was not working, so I needed to fix that. And then I was like, oh my god, I know what's going on. It's because Google Hangouts loves to save settings from like Google Chat phone calls that I do with my parents. So it saves the mic input as one thing. Fuck, it's a terrible, terrible system that I have to do to get the Google Hangouts thing to work. Trust me, YouTube does not know what they're doing. So when I switched it to the other microphone, it switched. I don't know. I honestly don't know what it switched to, but obviously it was a terrible time for you, and I apologize to all of you. I will never put you through that again. So let me know. Any questions out there? What races do you guys have coming up? My next big race is the Oregon Coast 50K, which I'll be running with Kim. Talked a bit about it last week. It's Kim's first 50K. I'll be running it with her. So my effort will be whatever it takes to get her to the finish line. I'm not going to be going race effort by any means. My job is to run with her and film her. I'm making a whole film about it. So hopefully my body will be able to just do that, and that'll be in October, and I'm pretty excited about that. There is another race in December, the North Face 50 miler, and that is a big one, and I'm very excited about that. I was also offered a spot to run the New York Marathon with some friends, and I'm looking at doing that. I have never run the New York Marathon. It is 100% a bucket list race. I would have to raise money for charity, and it's one of those things that's like, I hate asking for money. I hate asking for money. I know it's for a great cause, 100%. But the asking for money thing always is like, I hate doing that. Because I hate guilting people into donating for causes maybe they don't necessarily believe in. ALS challenge is one of the things I'm like, I got challenged, I got to do it. But at the whole scheme of things, I definitely think it's for a greater good, 100%. So, of course, if someone challenged me, I already did the ice challenge. If someone challenged me to do it, I had to do it. And, of course, I challenged additional people. But it's one of those things like, I hate pressuring you guys. So I'm still contemplating that, the New York Marathon. I don't know how much I have to raise. They haven't told me. But it would be one of those scenarios where like, hey, you got to run the New York Marathon, but you have to raise money for charity. And I'd be like, oh, I gotta ask people for money, so we'll see. But God, it'd be great to run the New York Marathon, right? And the people that I'd be running it with are so awesome, so fun. I'm not spoiling anything yet because it hasn't been officially announced or signed. So I think I should do it. It would be a week or two after the Oregon Coast 50K, and then it would be about a month before the North Face 50 miler. So that it might actually work. That's the thing, is that I might actually work. And the cost is going to be expensive as far as travel and all that stuff. So we'll see. Raise money for a New York Marathon last year, one of the hardest things I have ever done. See, I know. Raising money for those, like all the organizations that, hey, you can run our marathon, just raise $3,500. It's like, it takes a lot out of you, just asking people for money. I have 3 races in September, all 5Ks. I'm a big guy. All good, that's fine. 5Ks are still tough, but one of these 5Ks will also be my first trail run. Hey, all right. Nice work. I love that. Way to go, Spare Tire Running Club. Raul Engel was thinking about beating the other Raul to the top of Baldy. Ha ha ha. I actually think about Run to Top as well. There's a race in Southern California called Run to Top. It is running up Baldy, Mount Baldy, which is the highest peak in the Los Angeles area, though there are taller ones. But it's a very well-known mountain, and it's a pretty tough climb up there. The route that they take up is not super long. I believe it's 6 miles up, but you still gain like 4,000 or 5,000 feet of altitude or something, 4,000 maybe. So it's tough. It's a tough grind. I did it. That was my first trail race, or like one of my first mountain races. I had no idea what I got myself into. It was a nightmare. I panicked the night before. I realized what I had signed up for, and I was like, oh my God, what? I think it took me 2 hours or something to do. If I did it again this year, I would definitely want to try to go faster. Running with Shay Carl, says Alyssa Chow. Maybe. Kenny Pang doing 2015 New York Marathon. Raul E, aka Fast Raul, you will undoubtedly beat me to the top. Alberto Lugo, Mexico City Marathon next weekend probably. Nice, Alberto. Mexico City is high. I believe it's 8,000 feet of elevation. Is that 2,500 meters or something like that? So you're dealing with altitude in Mexico City, just as it is. It might not be that high, but it's still really high. Garden of Life, raw meal replacement, and raw greens. Love your reviews. Thank you. Just found your channel tonight. You're awesome. Oh, cool. Thanks, Shiloh. Appreciate it. Kimo Sabe 75. Watching your Squamish training vids inspired me to sign up for my first ultra next year. The North Face 50 miler in DC. Nice. Love it. The North Face puts on great races. Man, if I could, I'd run all of theirs. Maybe one of these years, I'll just see if I can get in touch with them and say, I want to run all of your races. Fly me to all of them. I want you guys to take care of everything. Fly me. I will film them, and let's do it. Because they put on great races. The North Face 50K in San Francisco 2 years ago was my first ultra. It was fucking hard because of weather, and it's the first ultra. So many factors. But man, I never looked back. It was incredible. Just an incredible experience. And I was talking to the kid about this, and if you don't get emotional at races, you're not racing hard enough. I know a lot of people just don't get emotional. That's fine. But I believe that if you don't get emotional at races, you're not racing hard enough, or you're not doing something. Because man, I race with emotion. Towards the end of both the 50 miler and the 50K at Squamish, you can't help but get caught up in the fact that you just demanded something of your body you never thought you could do. And there have been times at the end of some marathons and some 50Ks where I'm just like, oh, that felt good, and maybe not necessarily emotion driven, but that's because the efforts those days weren't the full body, put everything out there efforts. But I knew that going into it. But man, when you race with your full body and full heart and full emotion, it's incredible. Totally incredible. I'm doing the North Face 50K in DC next year too, second time. Hope to go under 5:30. Nice work, guys. I'll be at the Disney Marathon. Nice, that's a good one. I love that. It's expensive. The Disney Marathon's always really expensive. That's the only downside to those races. I love Disneyland. I love Disney World. I love all that. It's just so expensive. I think it was over $220 or something to race the Disney Half Marathon 2 or 3 years ago. Because on top of the $160 race fee, you have to pay for parking twice or 3 times. There's all these additional costs that you don't necessarily take into consideration. Just makes it really expensive. Attempting my first sub-3 at Chicago this October. Your vids are pretty much part of my workday distractions and have helped to keep me inspired. Keep it up, and thanks. Nice. A sub-3 is an incredible effort. Fucking do it. Do it. If that's your first sub-3, would that technically be your first Boston qualifier? Possibly. Jim Leroux. This year, the North Face 50 in San Francisco will be my first ultra as well. I've been able to preview the course twice this summer, going out again Wednesday. Jim, I'm assuming the 50K. It is tough. If you're able to get out there and actually jump on the course and train on the course, that is 100% a great tip, is to get on the terrain that you will be racing on, just to be familiar with it. It'll help you mentally come race day, big time. Are you trying to make me feel better about crying on race days? Hell yeah. Hell yes. Everyone should do it because you earned it. North Face 50 miler, Wisconsin in September redemption for not such a great time last year. Any details on the Gorge 50K lottery? No details on that lottery. I'm a huge Rain Shadow Running fan. The guys and girls that put on those races, James Varner, the race director of the Gorge race. If he will allow me, I will be back there. I mean, the lottery system is I think it's smart because that race is going to sell out year after year after year. I want to go back and run the 100K, 100%. My big race that I want to do 100% next year is the Orcas Island 50K, which is another Rain Shadow Running race. I grew up in the Northwest. Every summer I would go to Orcas Island, and I have vivid memories of hiking Mount Constitution with my father on that island, and I would go there every summer and just relish in that island's beauty. It is incredible. It is incredible. It takes a long time to get there. It's about an hour north. You have to drive an hour plus north of Seattle to Anacortes, and then another about 45 minutes to an hour ferry ride to the island. It takes a while to get there from Seattle. Worth it. Worth every minute because you're on an island with a mountain right in the middle, and the trail race there is a 50K, and it has like 10 or 12,000 feet of elevation change or something like that for a 50K. I got to do it. I got to do it. Qualified at California International Marathon last December. My first 4 minutes shy of breaking 3 hours. Then you're so close to break the 3 hour mark at Chicago. You can do it 100%. Need to hydrate more to be able to cry at the end of races. I agree, Kimosabe. Jake Condren, when can we get one of those badass buffs? Yes, right. Look at this. My Train Race beer buff. I was wearing it because I got back from my little run walk today. These will be available once I get back to the States. I'm still in Canada. I will go back to the States, I believe, this weekend or next week, early next week. And I will be selling these. I believe they're already there. I believe they're sitting at my house. I hope so. I hope so. So once I get inventory, when I get home, they're going up online, and you guys will be able to buy them pronto because I want to get these out as soon as possible. The racing season is not coming to an end anytime soon, but for all of the races coming up in the fall and the winter, I want people to wear these things. I think it's a perfect time for the debut of the Train Race beer. And, okay, I know I actually have a lot of fans that are sober, and I totally love that. I 100% appreciate people's honesty and openness about that. So I wanted to make sure that there is an option on this buff for people who don't drink. I think that's crucial. So it has two sides. One is the Train Race beer, and obviously the other side is Train Hard, Race Harder, Party Hardest. So if you don't want the beer mentioned or just out of sight completely, fold it on up and just keep this as your motto on the outside. And you will not see the beer part anywhere. That's it. Train Hard, Race Harder, Party Hardest. So you can always have that as an option. I also understand if it's like, I don't even want to have beer on anything I own. I also understand that. Just wanted to make sure that people had the option. Hey, Ethan, Dunkin' Cocky Kid, do I get a buff now? No, you didn't win the contest. That contest was won already. Tara McWaters, how much will they be? I have not decided. I want them to be as cheap as possible. I have to take into consideration shipping because there will be international shipping available for people. I'm thinking $20 is kind of what I'm shooting for, $20, then plus shipping. And in most cases, that'll be minimal. Like across the United States, a couple bucks, maybe $3, $4, $5 or something. I don't know. And international, hopefully similar. But yeah, $20 is kind of what I'm shooting for. Also debating doing the Kodiak 50 up in Big Bear, but it might be more than I can chew. Raul, I will say this about the Kodiak. Careful. I have only heard terrible things of the Kodiak. The Kodiak 100 last year ran into a number of flagging issues where people got lost for hours because flags were taken down or they basically had people on the course that were removing course markings or they didn't mark it enough. I don't know the full story, but I just heard horror stories. The Kodiak 50 could be completely different, and I want to give credit to I want to be able to give races plenty of credit to change if they've had a bad experience, that the next year is going to be far better. So that could absolutely be the case this year with them doing the race again, and that it's going to be completely overhauled and amazing. So just know going into it that last year I heard some tough stories from that race. But doesn't mean it's not going to be amazing this year. Can't wait to rock Bixby when I'm actually running Bixby in Big Stir next year. That's so awesome. That is so awesome. It's such a great marathon course, the best road marathon course that I have run. It's just incredible. There's nothing like it on the planet. Nowhere. I will run it again someday. It's one of those, you're lucky to get into it if you can get through the lottery. It's not even a lottery. It's just a first come, first serve. So if you can get through that and you can actually get a spot in the race, you're lucky. But it's one of those I'll run again someday. Not next year, but hopefully someday. I've got Oregon Coast and San Francisco North Face 50 miler as well. It's just a coincidence, honestly. I'm not stalking you, Ethan, says David. Well, I'll see you at both races. Sounds great. I'll see you at both. And what logo is on your hat? Seen it in past vids. Pretty cool. This is Patagonia. I'll be right with you there, Bobby. Can't wait to rock you out. What kind of fabric is the buff made? Synthetic? It is very absorbent. It's like an athletic fabric, but honestly, it's very stretchy. I don't think it's cotton. It's obviously not cotton, but it is like a synthetic fabric. It's a sports fabric. It's very much the same as Buff, the brand Buff. So yeah, extremely stretchy, all sorts of absorbency, but also quick drying. What I really loved, I wore this during the Squamish 50-50, both around my neck and around my wrist. It's great because it absorbs the moisture as well as wicks it away or dries it out. In humid conditions, it can also kind of absorb a lot of that moisture as well, so just be wary of that. I wore it around my wrist on the first day and was able to, completely wipe the sweat and stuff off my brow, my face, off my neck, and all that. It was great. Also, dipping this into the cold water at the aid stations was incredible. Basically, you run into an aid station, you rip it off your neck or off your wrist, you know that you're getting into an aid station where you're going to need a douse, dip it in there, and just start squeezing it all over your head. I mean, it's incredible to have this kind of absorbent fabric somewhere on your body where you can do that. And then also, here's a little pro tip. If you turn it, I should be showing you. So here's the full length, right? It's a full length. And I will say this about people have been like, oh, well, I want the half size, or they basically want the length that's like this. And yeah, there's definitely something to be said about people who want a buff about that length. But I like the full length buffs for a reason. You fold them in half inside, like this. I'll just show you this quick little tip. And basically what you're doing is you're making a hollow boat around the perimeter, right? So you still have your hole, but then you also have like this pocket, this shallow pocket. So if you hold it around your neck like this, you have this pocket all the way around. You fill that pocket with ice the whole way, and then roll it over. Additionally, you now have basically a band that you can put around your neck that is entirely full of ice cubes. You can wear it around your head, you can wear it around your neck, you can wear it around your wrist, you can put it anywhere, and it keeps your whole body cool, because basically all the blood that circulates to your brain comes up through your neck, and if you can keep that blood cool, you'll keep your head cool. You'll keep everything cool. It's all cool. And you can pull it off at any point and kind of hold it underneath these pressure points where blood is continuing to flow through. So these save people in ultras for sure. I don't know. I also just like the look of it. I think it's been holding up super well. Color hasn't faded at all in multiple washings in the last couple of weeks. The white is still crisp white. I'm a big fan. I am so excited about these. Okay, so I think that's it, guys. It's 7:34. That means Kim is on her way home, which means I need to run to the beer store and get a replacement beer for the one that I've been drinking during this episode. That is it for tonight. Don't forget to tune in next week. We have Chris Vargo. He's going to come by to talk about UROC, the Ultra Race of Champions. I've realized that I was saying Ultra Race of Champions, UROC, which will feature a number of incredible athletes that Chris will be towing the line with and showing who's boss. It's going to be great. It's going to be a really, really fun show next week. And we haven't had Vargo on in I can't remember how long. 20 episodes, maybe? 20 episodes. So that's it. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching live, and thank you for sticking around for the post show. That's always a blast. This is when we kind of get to have some little banter back and forth. Let me just catch up on some of the comments here. I realize again that if I pull the mouse out of the chat room, it all of a sudden starts loading like 1,000 comments. I always forget about that. I will do the Eco Trail 80K in Oslo next year, says Knut Finstad. Nice, great. That's gonna be. I want to go to Norway. That sounds incredible. I was thinking about the main use for it would be to use as a mini towel for my forehead. Sure. Yeah, Luis. Wearing it just as a headband keeps all the sweat out of your eyes, obviously, 100%. And people are like, oh, well, the full buff isn't great for summer months. It's better for summer months because you can dip it in cold streams. You can dip it in cold ice buckets. If you get to an aid station in a road marathon, just have them pour water on your head. And you know what? That cold water stays in here and keeps your head cold. It's awesome. If they have ice, just start tucking it in there. I love it for that purpose. Can you tell us a history of your running days in high school? Like, were you fast? Did you do cross country, do track, any other sports? It's all on my website. It's all on gingerrunner.com. Maybe someday. I've said it before on the show, and I'll probably say it again at some other point. Hey, Ethan, sorry if you answered this already. Wondering if you'd like to have Rob Carr on the show to talk about his Leadville win. Always. Yeah. I actually reached out, or he reached out to me and said that he was a fan of last week's episode. He just wrote me today and was like, hey, last week's episode with the Squamish, I like woke up to a message from Rob Carr, and I couldn't believe it. He said that he loved last week's episode, the recap, and he couldn't imagine running 2 ultras back to back. I'm like, you're Rob Carr. You can do anything. You're kind of a beast. And so in my reply to him, I was like, please come on the show. Come on the show whenever you want. You tell me when your schedules are open. So hopefully he can. He will. He's an incredible runner. I would fanboy all over that shit. Loving the buff ice tips, says Kimasabe. And congrats again on your back to back ultras. Appreciate it, Kimasabe. Great show. Thank you, Ibis, Raul Engel, Emmys. Go watch the Emmys, everyone. A. Smith. I have the Northwest 50K in December, the Disney Marathon in January, and was just asked to pace at the Arkansas Traveler 100 in October today. Go do it. Jaira Kutch. You speak Spanish? Un poquito. Super Salgado. I'll run Mexico City Marathon next Sunday, and I want a buff too. Nice, guys. All right, I don't know where everyone's getting all these emoticons, but apparently emoticons work in the chat room, and it's a great way to get people to block you because too many emoticons makes people angry. You guys are amazing. We'll see you guys next week for number 30. I can't believe it, number 30. Oh, and Kim's home, and I didn't buy another beer. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Bye.